Hey guys, what is up? It's Dusty here and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Crypto News. And today we have to talk about the Ripple versus SEC lawsuit and XRP in general. So if you guys are interested in XRP stuff, make sure you press that like button so I know. Having said that, here's a couple of interesting pieces. Now, first of all, Ripple SEC settlement expected by the community this year. I've already stated that I think the lawsuit will end in the next 3 months. I think literally the end of the first quarter is also basically the deadline for the lawsuit, but of course you never know. Then again, XRP lawsuit, Ripple may have the upper hand against the SEC thanks to the US Department of Justice's latest comments on crypto. Now, after we saw the poll by John Deaton, where he basically asked the people whether or not they think a settlement was likely this year, he actually had a negative little comment to state that he doesn't necessarily think a settlement is happening, and a lot of that has to do with the William Hinman documents. However, this article here states, which was published 44 minutes ago, and everything relates to one another. Ripple versus SEC verdict likely, as Hinman documents not so important, lawyers argue. We're gonna go over everything. It's gonna be a very interesting little piece. There's also another interesting piece later on, which says, XRP and Cardano have always been securities, a crypto executive says. But let us start at the start. And again, guys, if you're enjoying these daily crypto videos, make sure you press that like button. So basically, to start it out, yesterday there was a poll by John Deaton where he asked, do you think the Ripple case will settle or go to verdict over in the new year in 2023, where 60% out of the 18,000 people thought that the Ripple versus SEC case would settle? John Deaton also shared that he didn't expect 59% of the voters to expect a settlement for Ripple and the SEC this year. The crypto law founder stated that a year ago, he also believed that a settlement would come soon, since he thought that the securities regulator would not be willing to get Hinman's emails, the former director of the Division of Corporation Finance, to be made public in court. Still, in October 2022, Judge Torres ordered the SEC to turn over those documents. Ripple's general counsel, Stuart Alroty, believes that having those documents turned over to court would only make Ripple's legal arguments stronger. As for the 2023 prediction last year, Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse also shared that he expected the settlement to be reached in the first quarter of 2023. In a later tweet published by John Deaton, he stated that any prediction or belief that he may share about the settlement is as good as anyone else's, and it could be proven wrong at any moment. Now, before we move on, we should make one thing very clear. Whenever we talk about John Deaton, you should see him as just an ordinary person or a lawyer familiar with the matter. He does not represent Ripple, he is not Ripple, he is not XRP or anything crazy like that. There was an article published 2 days ago. Ripple, January 30th to become most important date for the whole industry, crypto lawyer. And the narrative here was kind of placed on the fact that Ripple put this out. January 30th to become the most important day for the whole industry, the SEC has been seeking disgorgement against a non-party entity, which could have greater implications. The court has agreed to a hearing on January 30th with Library, which could be a defining moment. Again, if we take a look at the article, as per the latest development, John Deaton, the lawyer representing Ripple in this case, has noted that January 30th hearing would be yada yada yada. Again, we have to understand that he in no way, shape, or form represents Ripple, so this is some grade A misinformation that's being spread. And that lies a lot deeper, as a lot of the information that's going around is very much inaccurate. And so what you need to understand is that we can all speculate about when it's going to end, but nobody really knows. If somebody's telling you they know for certain that XRP is going to go to a certain price, they're lying to you. But for good measure, John Deaton himself says he's in the 40% who answered the poll believing that the judge will make the decision. And he basically says this because of 3 different arguments. Now, firstly, despite previously believing that the desire to keep the Hinman documents private would force the SEC to seek a settlement, John Deaton now believes that the SEC is prepared for those documents to go public, which would be pretty crazy, honestly. I've been thinking about this for a little while, but if those documents become public, that will basically put on the map everything that's been going on in terms of crypto regulation in the background, which could be pretty damn crazy for crypto in the near future. It could be just crazy for every different crypto lawsuit coming out after this. The lawyer argues that while the draft documents of the controversial 2018 speech may indicate malicious SEC intent, it is unlikely that it will have a significant bearing on the court's summary judgment decision. Notably, this is one of the SEC's arguments in its latest omnibus motion to seal the Hinman documents. Deaton now believes that there was no mention of XRP in the controversial documents, citing the sparse referencing of the documents in reply briefs from Ripple since they got their hands on them. And secondly, he argues that SEC Chair Gary Gensler the main villain in this story, may currently be willing to take on the risk of an unfavorable outcome for the SEC in summary judgment, as the Commodities Future Trading Commission, CFTC, is also pushing to regulate the crypto markets. He's basically saying that maybe the SEC would just like to wing it here and try it out. Finally, Deaton says the ruling in the library case and the collapse of FTX are likely to have emboldened the SEC, and the lawyer has reiterated that his prediction, the SEC will soon file a lawsuit against a crypto exchange, which will put everything just on the map yet again and even further. I think the library ruling emboldened him and the SEC. Dean tweeted, I also believe Sam Bankman Fraud and FTX have given Gensler more ammo to use in his war against crypto. As many of you know, 6 months ago I predicted he will sue an exchange in the very near future, and it's coming. And it is worth noting that these recent rumors of a Ripple settlement date in November and December have fueled speculations. Notably, Fox reporter Eleanor Turret debunked both rumors, citing sources close to the case, as reported by this website. The 2-year-long battle is on its last legs. Consequently, it is unsurprising that speculating on its outcome are reaching a fever pitch. It is no out-of-court settlement is reached. If no out-of-court settlement is reached, the XRP community should expect a ruling before on our March 31st, according to attorney James Fillon, who has followed the case closely, and that's exactly what we're looking for as well. So again, to reiterate, it could be that these Hinman documents are not as important as we expected them to be, otherwise Ripple would have most likely mentioned more pieces of them more frequently. Now obviously, it could be that some of the things were hidden away behind the little black crossings, right? But it could indeed be that XRP was never mentioned in any of these documents, but Deaton no longer holds the view that XRP was mentioned. He said, prior to reading the last 2 Ripple briefs, I believed it was likely that XRP was referenced in the emails. Since Ethereum was getting a regulatory free pass, I believed it possible, if not likely, that someone in the Hinman speech email chain might have asked, so what about XRP? Since they were discussing Ethereum or whatnot. Now, he doesn't believe XRP was actually mentioned in the emails, comments, or drafts of any of these speeches, or any of these drafts, I guess, in general. If XRP itself had been mentioned in the emails, Ripple lawyers would have certainly have mentioned it in the briefs already, Deaton says. According to the attorney, it might have simply been a statement that simply owning a quantity of an asset or token is not enough to satisfy the common enterprise factor under Howey, despite the SEC's assertion to the contrary. Since the emails and comments are probably not as damning to the SEC as originally believed, and thus would defeat its entire crypto regulatory strategy, Deaton believes a settlement is no longer the most likely outcome. And again, a settlement as we thought could happen at any moment, but the lawsuit coming to a conclusion because of the judge, well, the most likely outcome was before or on March 31st. That's what everybody expected, as that's basically the date when the judge will be asked how many cases she has open and running, and she wants as least as possible. So since this one is exactly on or around the date where she could take it off, she'll most likely make the decision right around that time or right before it, is what is expected, right? Now, an interesting article that I found. XRP and Cardano ADA have always been securities, a crypto executive says. Take a look at this. A cryptocurrency executive claims that XRP, Solana, and other cryptocurrencies are actually unregistered securities. This guy's not the first to state this, so it's not really surprising to me at all. But apparently, Gene Hoffman, CCO of blockchain project ChiaCoin, shared his point of view to clear up some of the confusion. He went on to mention, like Gary Gensler style, Ethereum, XRP, FTT, Solana, Avalanche, and Cardano have always been securities in his opinion. Beyond attempting to classify different coins as either securities or non-securities, Hoffman, a seasoned tech executive, explained that projects should not rely on selling their tokens or coins to investors in order to raise funds legally in the US. Instead, there are well-known ways to do so without putting potential investors at risk. Hoffman also recently predicted that the SEC would win the legal battle against Ripple, and I can't really believe my eyes whenever I read this type of stupid stuff. In my own opinion, it is really difficult to classify something as a security or non-security without knowing the full details of the raise, or basically what the money was used for after the raise happened. Now with Ethereum, it's definitely possible to state that at some point or another it was, or at least was acting as a security. But if you look at the current Ethereum, that whole theory doesn't really make a lot of sense. And then again, that is putting pressure on the fact that Ethereum itself is a security instead of Ethereum being sold as a security. Then again, logically, by getting yourself any of these tokens, you're not necessarily doing it for profit generated by the foundation. You could literally be buying Ethereum to use as gas fees for something built on top of Ethereum, so that doesn't really hold up anymore to say that it is a security, at least in my opinion. The same thing goes for a lot of other projects like Avalanche, for example. It doesn't really make sense to classify it as security in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, for XRP, the same thing counts, albeit that there are many people that we now know that who have bought XRP without really knowing that Ripple exists. Now, it's funny because they state that Bitcoin is not a security because it does not provide investors with an ownership share in a project or portion of profits made by the project's venture, which not really many cryptos do that I know of. As of this point, I don't know any of them, but there might be some. Then again, as you guys know, there are many different people out there who also believe that Bitcoin is actually a security in some way, shape, or form. And all I can say about it is, just let it go. Man, there's going to be people who always think the contrary, and that's also because being contrarian can sometimes be very profitable or very empowering, there we go. Especially because if you're the contrarian, if you're wrong, it's not that big of a deal. But if you were right, you get a lot of credits because you are right when all the others were saying that you were going to be wrong, right? If you guys understand that principle. It's the same thing as putting up predictions which are ludicrous. Well, you're going to most likely be wrong when nobody bats an eye because nobody really cared in the first place. But if you're right, people will praise you for praising such a crazy bet. It's a strategy that many marketers use all the time, and many of these guys like Peter Schiff or guys like that, they keep saying crazy, outlandish, stupid stuff, which nobody really bats an eye for if it's wrong. But the moment that they're right, people were like, whoa, this guy's a genius. And the guy himself can say, here, I knew it all along. All in all, let's make one thing clear. The only thing that I'm doing right now is accumulating like a madman. Again, I personally don't think this lawsuit is going to take too much longer, and so this might be one of our last chances to buy like absolutely freaking madmen. So that's exactly what I'm doing, and that's exactly what I recommend to people to look into. To just looking into whether or not it's a smart idea for yourself to get some of these tokens before it all ends. Again, it could turn out to be a really stupid decision, but I personally think the risk to reward is looking pretty good, and I never recommend going 100% into XRP. But right now, the next 3 or so months might be the final months to get XRP cheap. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you press the like button and subscribe to the channel. And there's another video coming out later today, so stick around for that one. I'll see you guys again in another one.